Day 81, 2,384 verses left. 1 Corinthians is another letter that Paul wrote to the church in Corinth. He goes there in Acts chapter 18 on day 79. Paul has a fan club, and so does this other guy called Apollos. Cool, I must get myself a t-shirt. But Paul says that Jesus is the one they should be focusing on because he's the one that actually died for them. Paul then says that the message of Jesus dying on the cross seems pretty stupid to everybody, but that regardless of this, is the one thing that God has chosen to free humanity from the fact that they've messed everything up. He says you can properly understand this if you've got the Holy Spirit. Check out Acts 2 on day 77. In chapter 3, Paul basically shuts down his fan club and he says the only thing he wants people to be a fan of is the way that he copies Jesus. Maybe he had a Jesus t-shirt. Chapter 5's a bit awkward because there's a guy sleeping with his mother-in-law. Paul says that because he calls himself a Christian, he has to be kicked out of church for a little while he gets himself sorted out. Not least because apparently lots of people are finding it amusing. He also said none of this would be any of his business if the guy didn't call himself a Christian. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't tell a sumo wrestler how to fight. In chapter 7, it turns out you also shouldn't be a Christian and sleep with a prostitute or get married. Wait, but you can get married. No, but you shouldn't. But it's fine. Wait a minute. Then he says you can have a steak and chips even if it's been sacrificed to another god. Unless you're worried that it's been sacrificed to another god. Then you can't. But you can if you're not. Oh, flip, not this again. Paul then says that people who spend their lives talking about Jesus should be able to get paid for doing it. Oh, goody. Checks can be made payable to... but Paul never got paid. In fact, Paul says that he does everything possible to encourage other people to follow Jesus, even to the point of making his own body into his slave so that he can follow Jesus better himself. Then he warns the church about idolatry again, and he said that meat eating that makes other people think it's okay to party with demons is not cool, but that it is cool to accept hospitality from people who aren't Christians even if the food has been sacrificed to idols. Maybe I'll just stick to Shreddies. In chapter 11, Paul talks about holding church services that are not chaotic. Yeah, nothing can go wrong if you've got the right hat on. And that when they gather to remember the death of Jesus through communion, they should look after each other rather than binge eating and humiliating poor people. In chapter 12, he talks about Christian superpowers, otherwise known as spiritual gifts, and that when you use them you should value each other and only do it in the context of love. Check out chapter 13 for an awesome explanation of what love is. Tune in tomorrow for tips on how you can become absolutely brand spanking new.